Hi, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw realistic water droplet with waves using graphite pencils. So let's get started. So these are the art supplies I'm going to use for this drawing, and you can pause the video right here to note them down. I'm using this A3 size paper from my ordinary drawing paper pad, and the drawing portion area is 6 × 9 inches. First of all, I'm going to make a freehand outline of the water droplet and waves around it. I'm adding small strokes in a spherical shape to make the outline of the biggest wave, keeping the natural flow and movement of water in mind, and then roughly making a circle for the droplet in the center. Now I'm adding these rough strokes for the smaller waves inside the bigger ring I created earlier. When you are done with the rough outline of the drawing, start darkening the outlines and areas which have higher contrast and shadows, keeping the reference image in mind. I'm keeping the pressure on my pencil variable to achieve different tones and to blend the ends of the waves with the background later on. Now I'm adding a base layer in the area using a B graphite powder with a bigger size dry brush like this. I'm adding this layer in a circular scribbling motion to avoid patchiness, as the inner portion of the drawing will have more highlights, so I'm adding a base layer with lower pressure. Now I'm using a tissue paper and blending this layer in a circular scribbling motion to get a smooth base for future layers of contrast and highlights. I'm adjusting some of the shadows of the bigger wave by adding graphite powder with a medium-sized dry brush. Again, make sure to add this layer in a circular scribbling motion to avoid patchiness. If you don't have a graphite powder kit, you can make one at home by watching this video from the cards. Okay, so to add the details of the smaller waves in the center, I'm using my 8B pencil and firstly darkening the circle, and then extending from the right side like this to trace the pattern of the waves. Make sure to pay extra attention to the variations of the shape, tone, and texture while sketching the outlines and adding details. And by the way, you can get access to our premium content and support this channel through Patreon. You can sign up through different membership levels and get access to all the outline and grid reference, etc. We have an ever-growing library of hundreds of exclusive and real-time tutorials, and you will also get access to 4 new tutorials every month. You can also post your artworks in our active community of patrons and participate in our weekly critique sessions where I give my honest and positive critiques on your artworks, so you can improve your skills and get better with your drawing. Visit the link in description and become a premium member today. Now I'm adding a mixture of smaller and bigger arcs around this main circle to mimic the pattern of water waves. I'm extending these arcs above while altering the length as well. And for the reflection of the droplet in the water wave, I'm making this oval shape in the center of the wave. Okay, now to add depth and contrast in the bigger waves, I'm using the same 8B pencil and darkening the respective areas accordingly. And then I'm using a cotton ball to blend these layers thoroughly. Moving on to the highlights, and first of all, I'm rubbing the perfection eraser on a scraper to get a sharp tip for fine details. You can also use sandpaper for this purpose. Now I'm carefully lifting up the excess graphite from the areas which are lighter and creating a soft base for future brighter highlights. Always clean the tip of your perfection eraser using a sandpaper or any rough surface during this entire highlighting process. Now I'm drawing these teeny tiny ripples using the sharp tip of a perfection eraser I just made. Make sure to analyze the highlighted parts carefully and add softer or brighter highlights as desired, as the contrast in these parts play a very important role in the overall look and realism of the drawing. As we know that the texture of a perfection eraser is kind of chalky, so when you don't clean the tip of the perfection eraser frequently after using it on a darker area, it makes the tip dirty. And when you use the same perfection eraser on a lighter surface, all the graphite from the tip starts depositing on the paper, making the area patchy and dark. So make sure to clean it more oftenly while working on this area to achieve better results. I'm maintaining a very low angle with my sharp tip perfection eraser. This will help in adding softer highlights without leaving any sharp line or corners behind. Okay, now by using the same perfection eraser, I'm adding this thin and sharp line with a higher angle and pressure. I chose a perfection eraser over the kneaded eraser to add such highlights in this area, because when we are adding very thin highlights on a darker area using kneaded eraser, it will get dirty more quickly than a perfection eraser, and this will make the highlight look patchy and uneven. So using a perfection eraser with a sharp and clean tip is a better option in such cases. Okay, so moving on to the surrounding areas, and I'm lightening the area using the same perfection eraser and maintaining a lower angle to add soft and subtle highlights around the waves. Now to further fine tune these highlights, I'm using my kneaded eraser and adding the second layer of highlights over the previous ones to make the area look more shiny and 3D. This step will also help in blending of the previous highlights. You can go back and forth with your tools while adding these intricate details until you are fully satisfied with the results. Before moving further, I'm creating a flat tip of my mono zero eraser by rubbing it vertically on a sandpaper. It will help you achieve these sharp corners all around the tip. And these sharp corners are perfect for adding thin highlights like this. And you don't have to sharpen the tip again and again. Just rotate the eraser and keep erasing until all the sharp corners are used. Okay, so now I'm using my sharp tip electric eraser and adding these small dots and highlights to make the water more shiny and realistic. You can sharpen the tip of your electric eraser using a fine grit sandpaper with a grit size between 300 to 500. You can get both of these electric eraser and lead sharpener from the links in the description. I'm going back and forth with my pencil and eraser to create this type of realistic and shiny texture. Okay, so moving on to the water droplet, and first of all I'm adding darker details using my sharp tip 8B pencil. I'm darkening the left and right sides and adding curved horizontal lines for the reflection of the water waves. This will give the droplet a plump and curved appearance. Make sure to leave a highlight area at the top where light is hitting the droplet. I'm blending the layers gently using a small draw brush to achieve a realistic look. Moving on to the highlights, and first of all I'm using my sharp and flat tip mono zero eraser and fine tuning this thin line to remove excess shading. Then I'm using my perfection eraser and erasing the extra graphite from the areas which need softer highlights. Okay, now it's time to make the droplet look shiny and 3D. And for this purpose, I'm using my sharp tip electric eraser and adding these small dots starting from the top. And these center ones are a little bit blurry from the corners. So for these type of blurry highlights, I'm going to use this technique with my electric eraser. Add a small white dot like this with your sharp tip electric eraser and then use the same electric eraser without turning it on and lightly extend the white dots outwards. In this way, your electric eraser will work as a mono zero eraser and you will get a smooth and smudged outline with a bright center for the highlights. Moving on to the lower portion of the droplet, and this area has a wide and thick highlight. So I'm adding it carefully while keeping the reference image in mind. Now I'm sharpening the tip of my mono zero eraser and adding these small lines to add a little sparkle of light on the right side of the droplet. It will immediately make it look shiny. Now by using the fine tip of the same electric eraser, I'm adding these small dots on the lower highlight. Try to keep your hands steady while adding these highlights or else you will mess up the whole texture and look of the droplet. And with this last step, we are done with this realistic water droplet drawing. After the shorts and cringe content took over the YouTube, it's really hard nowadays to get the recognition which the art instructors deserve. So please leave a like and share this video with your friends. It helps me a lot as an artist. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.